Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Mama Genius Hub podcast. And yes, we have Christy here in store for you. And we are talking about transforming your marriage. Get this, ladies, with or without your husband's involvement. So you're becoming a ridiculously happy wife. Can't you just take that in for a moment? That's what we're going to be diving to in a moment. So let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to Mama Genius Hub podcast, where we support moms with big dreams, from entrepreneurship to personal aspirations. I'm your host, Michelle Kaiser, and I'm here to help you unlock your potential in all areas of life. Join us as we explore strategies for thriving in motherhood while pursuing the dreams, the key to actually unlocking your genius. Subscribe now and embark on a journey to realize your fullest potential. So, Christy is a certified relationship coach with 30 years of marriage experience and a passion for strengthening families. Inspired by her parents' divorce and her own marital challenges, Christy's found transformation through Laura Doyle's The Empowered Wife. By embracing Doyle's 6 intimacy skills, she's revived her relationship and now helps wives rekindle their joy and romance, even without their husband's efforts. With 24 years of speaking experience, Christy combines humor, storytelling, and practical advice to empower women at churches, events, and women's groups. A former radio host of Contagious, Christy is dedicated to helping women create the marriages they've always dreamed of. Have you heard that, ladies? The marriages we all dream of. Let's welcome Christy so we can get started. Welcome, Christy. We're so excited to have you here today.
I'm excited to be here, Michelle. Thanks.
And I have to say, I love your accent.
I don't have an accent. What are we talking about?
None of us do, right? Well, we're just going to do as we always do and dive right in. You talked a little bit about having marital challenges as well. So I'm wondering if that's part of your why you even wanted to do this. But what is your why?
Yeah, well, I think you touched on it in my bio, but my own parents divorced during my senior year of high school, which was just terrible and so painful. And, it's not something that ends after a certain amount of time. It just continues to be annoying and painful throughout your life, because the holidays and weddings and all the things that happen with families are more difficult in a divorce situation. So I've always been passionate about marriage and family. But then when my own marriage was going through some rocky times and I was looking for answers and reading all the books, and we were going to seminars and even seeing marriage counselors, I just realized that really the resources were not there that were a fit to really transforming my marriage until I found Laura Doyle's book, The Empowered Wife. And that's when everything changed.
And I got to admit, you're the second person we've had on here talking about The Empowered Wife. I've actually read the whole thing, and I've been using some of the techniques as well. So I really do hone in on how she does that. But, we always need that broken down, or people who haven't heard about it or something. So, let's dive into where someone who's in a struggling marriage start. Where should they even start?
Yeah, well, I would start with the book, The Empowered Wife by Laura Doyle. You can get it anywhere. You can listen to it on Audible. But it's different than anything else that women have come across. And the great news is that it's simple and practical techniques, even sheet phrases of things you can say and ways that you can show up into your marriage. And what I found in my own marriage is that when I changed, my husband changed the way he responded to me, right? Because I find that we're very mirroring in relationships, just like you and I, Michelle. If I showed up today to our podcast and I was short and rude and snooty, that would impact the way you show up to me. It can't help but to, right? Because we're interacting. And so when I started showing up joyful with gratitude and respect and all of these things, my husband really shifted the way he was showing up to me. And what I found out was a lot of the ways that I was trying to get what I wanted in my marriage were actually repelling my husband. And he was avoiding me, rather than my new way of being is much more attractive and it's magnetic. So I show up highly feminine which causes him to show up highly masculine. And we are attracted together like magnets, like it was in the good old days, right? When we first got together.
Oh, I love that so much. I love how you bring in the polar of it too, with the feminine and the masculine. And I know we've talked about this on the podcast with other guests and stuff. It is that we as women have become very masculine in our to-do list and all the things that we do, that we've kind of somehow even lost some of the feminine ways and stuff. And so what are some of the, I don't even like the word tips, but it's the first only thing that's coming to me. What would some of the suggestions to bring back that feminine for some of the moms listening to this right now to really create that magnetism that you're talking about?
Yeah. Well, it's tough, isn't it, Michelle? We have a lot of responsibilities on our plate right now. Many of us are working. We've got a lot to handle in the home. We've got kids. We've got bills. We've got all of the things. And so much of our fun that we brought into our relationship has gotten buried under a lot of responsibilities. And the same thing has happened to our husband. So it's hard to see the girl that I was when we first got together 30 years ago. And it's hard to see the guy that he was, right? So it happens to men and women. But one of the things that I have found is, and one of the things I talk to all of the ladies who come to me for coaching is, what brings you joy, right? We've gotten so buried under our responsibilities that we've forgotten what we enjoy and what makes us happy. And so maybe you take 5 minutes today to read a chapter in a mystery book, right? Because that's something you used to do that you really enjoy that has fallen by the wayside because of your busy lifestyle, okay? Or maybe you take a hot bath. Maybe you go for a walk and listen to a great podcast. Maybe you go out for coffee with a friend. These things don't have to be expensive and they don't have to take 3 hours. But we want to do things every day just because they bring us joy. Because in my experience, miserable people don't have happy marriages, right? So
Right.
we need to bring some joy to the relationship before the relationship can be joyful. So that's just a real simple starting place. And it may sound trivial to some of the women that are listening, but it really is a principle of a happy relationship. And trust me, your kids and your husband want you to be happy, right?
I love that. I love that so much. And you brought up the whole reading aspect, which is kind of funny because what I've been trying to do with my middle daughter is we've been trying to figure out something to do together. And we both like to read. And I'm like, I have not read nonfiction in a while.
Yeah.
And she gave me a book, The Land of Stories. And she's laughing at me because she's now halfway through the Hunger Games and I'm still not done with the book because I just haven't, I'm like, if I would just pick the book up like the 10 minutes a day, like I would be done by now. And she just kind of was looking at me yesterday. So I'm actually almost done now because it was fun. And it's fun to do it with her because then we're having her and she's like, Mom, next we're going to have to read all the Hunger Games so I can have someone to talk to it about. And so I think finding some of these things to do with our kids as well, or a book with your husband or whoever, not just, we do have the mom book clubs and those things if that's your thing, but also just, maybe never thought of doing it with your family members as well. And it was amazing to do with my almost teenage daughter and find a connection with her.
I love that. I used to read out loud I have read out loud with my kids all the way through, even after they can read themselves. You and her can take turns reading at night and then talk about the things that come up. Things come up in books that may never come up in just a regular conversation with you and your kids. And I love that because it just brings so many rich conversations and such a connection in that relationship. So I love that you're doing that. That's really inspiring.
I try to read out loud with her, but she, with her swim schedule and stuff, and she wants to go faster than me anyway. So she can't sit still with that. So it's just another aspect for those, if you can't get the out loud reading, just a way of you can both, and she finishes her schoolwork first. So she's always reading in school as well. But moving back to a topic of hand, let's get back to the marriage aspect too, because a lot of us, like you said, do even with the feminine or your own joys, we're putting that to the wayside. And so I'd love for, actually, and we'll come back in a moment to do that. But when we come back, I'd love for you to bring some of that back to us, to how to bring back that joy in the marriage as well. And we'll be back in just a moment.
Okay.
Attention mompreneurs. Do you feel like you're constantly juggling the responsibilities without a moment to yourself? It's time to pause and reflect with our Mama Genius quiz. Tailored for busy mamas like you, this quiz will help you identify what's blocking your path and inspire you to harness your unique strengths, transform how you manage life and business, find your rhythm, and ignite your joy. Visit mamageniushub.com today to discover your Mama Genius. And that's mamageniushub.com. So let's just dive straight into what are some ways. Now, you talked a little bit about the feminine and masculine, but what are some other ways that we can really help shape that relationship? And I love how you put it that your husband doesn't necessarily have to be involved.
Yes, right. Because, Michelle, I don't know about you or the other ladies that are listening, but I really had what I call the he disease. And that means that my position was like this. He needs to change. He needs to do more of this. He needs to do less of that, right? And so for so many years, I was really in a hopeless, lonely place where I was waiting. When is he going to change? When is he going to do this or stop doing that? And it's so frustrating, right? Because I have no power to change him or anybody else, my kids, my mom, nobody. All I can do is me. Once I came to that realization and accepted it, then I was able to start making some progress, right? Because there's so much that I can do as a woman. I am very influential in my home, and so are you, right? Like we said before, if mama ain't happy, nobody's happy. But when mom is happy, guess what? It spreads. So if I bring an attitude of gratitude into my house and I start recognizing the things, not just my husband, but my kids are doing that I love, guess what? It is contagious. And they start showing gratitude toward me. And everybody is happier because everybody likes to be recognized for our accomplishments and for our input and for what we bring to the table. So I love the idea of really starting the habit of showing up with gratitude and appreciation and watching. You know, we talk about it with our kids a lot, trying to catch them doing something right. Because as parents, we're so corrective and we're constantly watching for where do they need help, where do they need correction, but they also need that gratitude and appreciation. And guess what? Let's turn that toward our spouse as well. Let's start focusing on all the things he's doing right. Because when I focus on the things that I don't like, they expand and they grow, and I find myself down in the dumps and frustrated. But if I can turn my attention toward all the things he does, that makes my life easier. So I would encourage the ladies to make a list today. Try to put together 10 things that you love about your husband, 10 things that he does that makes your life easier. And, you know, some women who are in a difficult and painful position, they may be super simple things like he goes to work, he takes out the trash, he mows the lawn. It doesn't matter. Start small and work from there, but find some things, be a detective, find some evidence that you married a good man, a smart man, a capable man.
I love that so much. And you know, we've been talking about that in the Genius podcast about doing that with your kids, being that detective. And so like, we need to do it both ways. The more we do it in all aspects and really put on that positive aspect. So like the Genius can apply to your marriage as well as finding what are those good qualities that come out? Because our bodies are wired for that negative response. I mean, go into flight, fight, freeze, all of that first, because that's what we're wired for. We have to literally, and that's why it might not, those of you might listening now might not sound like it's something that like you can do or like it won't help, but it's that training of the brain to see it the way you want it to be. Now that you can show that awareness, now we can change that perspective on it. And that's where the magic comes into place. And I love that you brought that in. So we got the, so one of the good ways to start, I'm just going to repeat that for everyone, is that habit of gratitude and being that detective. What else can you share with us?
You know, something that's very, that brings out the feminine in us that I was really bad at and had no idea. It was truly a blind spot for me, is receiving. And when I talk about receiving, I want to talk about gifts, I want to talk about compliments, and I want to talk about help. I think in our world today, we have been trained that just like at the grocery store, the man asks you, would you like help out to your car? And what do we say? Oh, no, I've got it. Yeah. Accept
I
that
have
help.
a response with you automatic.
Accept that help. Say, sure, I would love it. Thank you so much. And then show the gratitude, right? Accept compliments. When somebody says to you, I love your blouse, Michelle, say thank you with a smile instead of saying what we usually do. Oh, I got this for $5 at Walmart. Or, oh, this is a hand-me-down. Or, oh, I hate this blouse. Don't stop deflecting and just say thank you, right? And then when we talk about gifts, I don't know about you, but I was not a good receiver. My husband, early in our marriage, would bring me home flowers. And all I could think about in my mind is, oh my gosh, how much did these cost? And we could have spent the money on this or this, right? Just being so practical that guess what? I stopped receiving flowers.
I start getting all practical gifts.
Yeah. And we don't realize that we're doing that we're discouraging the very thing. You know, he wants to make us happy. And sometimes we can get so practical, or I did anyway. Now I get flowers again. Now I get gifts. Soon after I started practicing the skills, I got this diamond necklace, y'all. I would have never received that before because I wasn't a good receiver. And he would buy me maybe a sweater and I would say, oh, you know, I don't really like those colors, or that's not really my style. Can I take it back? And now I look back and think, oh my goodness, I would never do that to you. If you bought me anything, I would say, oh, Michelle, thank you so much. That was so kind of you to think of me. And yet I didn't use that same common courtesy with my own husband because I felt some kind of freedom. Oh, well, we're married. I can say anything to him. I can be completely honest with him, and just kind of threw my manners out the window. And it's so awful. So I want to encourage ladies to be good receivers in all of those ways, because it is a feminine quality that maybe we've forgotten about.
I'm receiving that information right now and taking that in and saying, I'm grateful for that reminder because it's so true. And I think we do that with the people who are closest to us.
Yes.
Do it with our kids, do it with friends that are just those feel like, oh, like it's okay. I can do those things. And I think when you put that way, when you have that aspect of gratitude, then you really start to actually feel it more.
Yes.
And you are grateful for that sweater. You're not like, oh, I should have got something else. Like you actually are grateful for the effort, regardless of what the sweater is, or it's the intention, the message behind it. So like if we revert back to what is the intention from all of this, like they were intending, your husband, your kids, whoever, with that gift. And I know I am the worst. Some people are like, I don't even know what to get you because the look on your face when you open something. And so I'm working on it, but I'm sure I'm not the only one out here listening to this feeling that way too, is really working on that feeling of the receiving. I think that's part of it too, is we just struggle to receive. Mm-hmm. And so it's almost like, to me, for sometimes it feels like that embarrassing moment, like, oh, I don't really deserve anything, or like they don't need to do that.
Yes. What about when a friend offers to buy your lunch? You go, oh, no. We're trained to do that. No. Yeah. Why don't we just say thank you? Because I know when I offer to buy your lunch, it's really because I want to. It's really because I want to bless you. So don't take that away from me. Allow me to do that and just say, oh, thank you, you know?
Oh, I love that. And I think
feel that love that the person's offering.
And we've created such a habit of no, that it is like a lot of these, I love how, like, especially from reading the book as well, a lot of these techniques are, and you're not going to do it all right away. It's going to be a reminder to yourself to keep the effort of it, because these are ingrained habits in us as a society as well. Mm-hmm. But the question comes down to, how do you want to feel?
Yes. And I practice every day. And I mess up every day. We don't ever arrive and say, oh, now I've got it. Now I'm perfect. But we are intentional in practicing. And you know what, Michelle? I still mess up. But the best news is I know how to clean it up now. When I do mess up, I know how to go to my husband and say, I'm so sorry. That was really disrespectful when I told you how to drive, when I corrected you in the car in front of the kids. I know how to clean that up and say, I apologize for being disrespectful when I did that.
And I think that's what it comes down to, especially is we aren't perfect. We are humans, but it's that accountability and it's that coming back to it and not just blowing out going, oh, well, he knows I feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the actual words and the intention with that. And the same thing goes true with your kids in terms of coming back. And when you make a mistake, realizing that and sharing that with them, because that, again, we're modeling, like you said, we're mirrors to each other. And then we're modeling the behavior that we want, that we want to see and we want to experience with each other, because those are the feelings that we truly want.
Yeah. I was a terrible apologizer. I don't think I apologized for the first 24 years of marriage. I was terrible. But you know what? Humility is beautiful. Vulnerability is beautiful. And I didn't know that. And I was really, those things were missing in my marriage. And I'm so thankful now that after practicing my apology, practicing, now it feels comfortable and it feels good to me to know that my side of the street is clean, right? And I don't need anything from him. If he apologizes, that's on his paper, right? But for me, I really want to keep my side clean. And I want to be, like you said, I want to be accountable. And part of this, Michelle, is raising our awareness, right? To be aware of when I say something disrespectful, when I don't receive help, well, when I am not grateful, just raising my awareness about it and then cleaning up when I don't do it well.
And we can't do it if we don't start to raise that awareness, because then we're just in that habit motion. And we'll be back in just a moment. Do you ever feel like your own dreams are fading on you as you focus and keep everything together for your family, or been buried under laundry and school runs and endless to-do lists? They're so deep, you don't even know what they are anymore. The Mama Genius Hub is here to help you uncover that part of you again. Maybe you felt that pull to start a passion project, return to a hobby you once loved, or pursue a career that lights you up, but you're so caught in everyone else's needs that you keep slipping through the cracks. In just 15 minutes a day, our mini courses will help you reconnect with those dreams while finding a new rhythm in motherhood's beautiful, messy life. And best of all, you'll be doing it with a community of moms who truly understand the juggle and the joy. The Mama Genius Hub is a community who've been there and are here to support and inspire each other every step of the way. It's time to rediscover your spark, live in your genius, and inspire your kids by showing them how to follow their own passions. Join the Mama Genius Hub today and start creating space for you again without guilt for doing it solo. Come to www.connectingmamas.com for more details. And we're back. And we're going to go into our final question of the day. What is a common misconception about motherhood that you think holds many moms back from truly stepping into their own genius?
That's such a good question. I know for me, I have 4 kids and 3 of them are gone now. I just have 1 left. But I know for me, the worst thing that I did was I really believed that there was a perfect mom out there and that I wasn't her. And so at the end of each day, I would sort of measure against this dream woman who didn't exist, right? She was always patient. She was always on time. She was always loving, all of those things. And I was never close. And so I always felt bad and guilty and disappointed. And it really didn't serve me. Right? That was not a helpful line of thinking for me or for anyone else. And the point is, there is no perfect mom. There's just me getting better intentionally every day and doing my very best. And one of the things I told my kids all the time they were growing up is, hey guys, I get an A for effort, right? I'm always going to give you the best I got, And that's what we can do. We can be faithful in our position as mothers and do our best.
I love that so much, how you put that into words. And it's true. I think a lot of us do that. And whatever this ideal mom that we've created in our head, society, whoever put that in our head, doesn't matter. We put it ourselves. We just keep putting this person on a pedestal, and we're going to put ourselves way down here. So we start to realize that this doesn't even exist. Mm-mm. We can tell ourselves, and again, it is like, this is all potential knowledge till we start to integrate it into our bodies. And that's why these techniques of actually changing your wording, changing your gratitude, changing the way you look at things is what's going to change and make this realize it doesn't even exist, is because you start to feel the joy, and this starts to rise you up and all of that. And I just want to thank you for coming on so much, and tell everyone how they can get a hold of you and if you have a free gift for everyone.
Yes, I would love to hear from you on my website, relationshipswithamap.com. And there you can get my free gift, which is the 5 mistakes women make when they're trying to get their husband's attention and affection. You can also find me on Facebook or Instagram. And yeah, I would love to have a free call with anyone who just wants to see if coaching might be a fit to help them come to a new place. And, Michelle, I think a lot of women hear the things that I'm saying and they think, this isn't going to help me. I have serious problems. My husband's having an affair, or my husband's addicted to porn. My husband's an alcoholic. And I have seen all of those types of situations transform through the use of these skills. So they may sound simple, but they are transformative. And I've seen it too many times to discount it.
Oh, I love that so much. So those of you that are feeling that way, please reach out to Christy. And I'm going to put you backstage for a minute, because we're going to go through some of the takeaways from today. Wow. Did you guys take that all in? And again, it really is to really embody this. Again, it's only potential knowledge. So if you're feeling that and you need some extra help, tip number 1 was to start with the Empowered Wife, to read it, to listen to it, to see if some of those techniques will work for you. She talked about how we do mirror each other. And so some of these techniques of changing, and I've read the book, and I do agree that a lot of these techniques for you to get started with will really help. And then number 2 was, she pointed out that a lot of times we're repelling our husbands until we start to do a new way of being. And as she had that magnet of being highly feminine to highly masculine, but again, we might have lost that somewhere along the way, or think, oh, I don't need to do that. And so the funds got buried in the relationship. And so what can we do to bring that joy back? Start with yourself, with that 5 minutes of what to do, to read, hot bath, coffee, whatever it is. We've always talked about that. 10 minutes of intentional time for yourself. She said 5, I'm throwing back to the 10 of just picking something to do for yourself every day. Whether even it's just sitting with your coffee with no one bothering you, whatever it is for you. That leads us into number 3, which is being that detective. We've talked about being a detective with your kids. Now let's do it for our marriage as well. And to really get into talking about and looking with that attitude of gratitude. So when you start looking, again, when you start looking for that, you start to train that RAS. What is that? The reticular activating system, which we didn't mention yet. But again, that's what we're doing when we're going through that attitude of gratitude. Is just like a new car. You see that car everywhere. Well, when you start to see your husband doing great things and you start calling it out, it starts to happen more often. What happens when gratitude's happening and you're feeling that energy? That mirror is going to happen as well, which then leads us into number 4, which is all about receiving. I'm going to admit I'm not the best at receiving gifts either, but when we look at receiving compliments, gifts, help, take a pause and say thank you and accept it, right? The more we start to accept it, the more we start to get more of it. But if we keep disregarding it, pushing away, we're going to get less of it. And then that leads us into number 5 is really, how do you want to feel? Remember that vulnerability and humility are beautiful, but sometimes they're the hardest to feel. But when we express that, then that gives us that intention back, and we're allowed to see more joy in it, because we are showing who we truly are, and we're having that right relationship with it. And then we're looking at the fact that we're trying to keep our side of the street clean. That's all we can do. When we work through these things, we come back and we apologize and we do these things and we show respect. We can now say, I did my part. I kept my side of the street clean. You can't have expectations or things for the other side, but you can focus on your side to really bring this out. And so I'm going to bring Christy back for her last takeaway of the day.
Wonderful summary. I was so inspired. I loved it. Those were great.
Thank you. See, I didn't even mean to do it, but I'm getting better at it.
Look at you.
What is your final takeaway for us today?
Oh, my final takeaway is that I am filled with hope for your marriage. All the women who are listening out there, I'm filled with hope. So if you're struggling to have hope for your marriage, call me. I will cover you and I will stand for you. As long as you want to fight for your marriage and keep it together, I'm here for you. And I will help you discover all the ways that your husband is loving you that you may be turning a blind eye to because you're focused on the things that you're missing. So I would love to support you in creating that thriving marriage and becoming that ridiculously happy wife. I know we can do that together.
So you all heard that. And I just want to thank you, Cristie, so much for coming on today. And we're so excited that you're here giving us, again, it's all about just a perspective change, right? We're not here to necessarily give the advice, but here to whatever, especially from the takeaways. Listen to the takeaways again. What one of them stuck to you, bring that into your heart and try to add that to your day, whether it's just doing something for yourself, right? That's what this is all about. It's not telling you how to do things. It's what speaks to you that you feel will move you forward in your motherhood, in your marriage, in becoming the person that feels that joy every day. And we'll see you on the next episode. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us in today's episode of the Mama Genius Hub podcast. If you found value in our conversation, please share this episode with another mama who might benefit. Sharing helps us build a supportive community and reach out to more mamas like you. After all, it's more fun when we do motherhood together. Until next time, stay motivated and continue to pursue your dreams as you shine in your genius.